I mean, a strong agreement with that, man. Mental illness, man, it's powerful. Yeah, when you remove the ego. Mike Tyson talk about removing the ego, and when you move the ego, you can then become happy. It's the ego, man. This sense of entitlement and thinking that you're the only person to ever go through something, and because it's you that is the most. Like, come on, man. You know how many people lost their parents, lost their mom, lost their dad, but your loss is supposed to be more important. No, man, that's my mom has prepared us for her demise. Not even demise. We choose the words that I use now. Her transition, her evolution, because she looks forward to it, man. Like me and my sister, we already ready to start laughing at the funeral. We already know, because we already had this conversation. Like my youngest sister is gonna probably struggle. But me and my sister right behind me, man, my mother prepared us, you know, and as far as this next place, you know, that other place, you know, wherever that next journey is. Every living thing got to go through it, right? So yeah, man. So hey, but let's get started, man. Let's go ahead, finish your thought. Let me finish your thought.
No. I mean, that's what they've been teaching us, you know. They've just been telling us that story in so many different ways. You know, it's very interesting in that we got so many stories about it. Right. But the things that makes that spirit feel good, that makes it connect, you know.
Right,
It's not harming nobody, you know. And everyone's practicing their love, whatever the transition is, man. I just ask for God to bless it, you know.
Absolutely, man.
Now, I got my notebook out in front of me too, bro. So.
Okay.
You know, don't mind me if you see me looking down. I still got my geeky things, man. I got all these like colorful pens and stuff, so it like keeps my thoughts, you know.
Understood. Hey, discipline is good. Those are good habits to keep.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to stay.
You know what I'm saying? Absolutely, man. So
it is. I mean, I know. Coach Mo, if there's anything, you're definitely a consistent man. You know.
I'm learning that.
Yeah.
In what way? What do you mean? In what way you mean?
Yeah, I mean, in a way of just being consistent of seeing things through, you know, but also consistent on being able to express yourself the best way that you feel that you know how to, you know.
Yeah, man. Yes, sir.
Given any environment, no matter if you're a professor or if you're teaching kids in Haiti, if you with your wife or if you with your boys, you know, you're a consistent man to me. So
I appreciate it, man. It's humbling, man. I'm man, extremely humbling. So let's go ahead and get started, man. On that note, made my heart feel good. But yeah, man. So again, this is Mofo. This is the second interview part 1. No, interview 1 part 2 is what we're gonna call this, because we got some raw footage of us just freestyling, just talking. So. But I'm excited to have a young man that I really respect and admire and watch grow up. It's so cool to say that, you know, knew him as a freshman in college, football player. And now I can say that he's grown into a man doing his own thing and ventured out into some very unique areas. And, you know, I think he has a lot to share with the world. So, so without further ado, I would like to introduce you all to Mr. Dante Settles. What's going on, little brother?
What's up, Coach Mo? How you feeling?
Brother, man, I'm good because I'm great. Let me say that. I'm great. I feel excellent because I'm alive. You know what I'm saying? I got another day. I got another 24. You heard me?
No doubt.
You know what I'm saying?
Your smile tells it all, man.
Oh, woof. Yeah. Man, I got to tell you something. Somebody told me not too long ago, Mo, you look like the freest black man in Chattanooga. I was laughing so hard. Oh, boy, that put such a smile on my face, man. I just feel so Yeah, brother, I when I tell you my stress level has been reduced so much, man. You're just reduced so much, man. But yeah, I get to sit on a, right now with these steps, man. I got some shade, man. I can hear the birds chirping, man. Loving it, man.
Yes,
yeah, man.
That's a good move. Got to get
sir,
that in, coach.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Dante Settles, man. So we met at Robert Morris University in the 2000. You were a freshman. Out of the DC area. Shout out to DC. All my peoples out there. I spent 2 years out there. Shout out to the DMV. Woo, the DMV, baby. We gonna get into DMV, but hold on a second. Because it played such a pivotal role in my life, in my development, 2002 to 2004. But you grew up there. You were born there, man. So tell me about DC and just the DMV and how much it means to you and how did it mold you?
Yeah, when you say DMV, for just in case others don't know, that means the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. Also was known as Chocolate City at one point growing up.
Right.
But growing up here in the 80s, definitely was a good time. I think when we go back in those day and areas in metropolitan areas, of course we have the crime. We have every community have their issues. But one way of growing up, I want to say it started with my household within my parents, and in a manner that they was able to raise like 2 boys and of course some other family members, but also play a pivotal role in the community too. So my experience growing up in DC, it felt like love because of the community base that we had to hold each other on to. And again, we all had our our things that was going on in the community, and we all know what we're talking about during that time in the 80s and some of the epidemics that happened in the Black community.
Right. Let's call it, crack cocaine. Heroin, these drugs that absolutely crack. Yes.
And it still affects the Black community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. That's undeniable. The stats don't lie. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I, we tried, parents played a pivotal role. Community support played a pivotal role because I was in a lot of sports all the time.
Right.
My parents were very active in the community, running the rec center. My father running youth programs. So being able to play a role as a young man early on to, be a part of that community leadership through my parents, played a huge role in my development and navigating the city, So, So home. This is home.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Speaking of, man, how the children doing, man?
Doing excellent. Yeah, they're doing great.
Good.
One is in high school, 9th grade, and my daughter's 8 years old and making so many strides in her development. So I have a lot of things to be blessed for.
Yeah, talk about your daughter, man, and her challenges, because I know there's a lot of parents out there that could possibly use some information. Talk about her development and the strides she's made and the challenges. But yeah, please, by all means.
Yeah. So my beautiful daughter, Chloe Jasmine Settles, was born on April 6, 2012, and she had a rare genetic condition. That rare genetic condition, which was called muscle eye brain disease, which is a part of a genetic strand of muscular dystrophy.
Okay.
So she was going to have her challenges coming into the world of learning speech, learning how to walk, how to function, her motor skills. And she continued to make strides throughout that process of doing our best to create an environment where she can develop. And so over the course of time, she had low vision, which pretty much made her legally blind now. But all of the therapy of there's like a core development that's happened if you're able to provide a home of love around that child, you know. And she can feel a lot of love, even though she can't see, she can hear. She'll know how to vocalize it by giving kisses and hugs and things like that. But there's a core process of asking for the help, being a part of the communities to let you know that you're not on your own. And there's a lot of support, you know, on a local and a state level in trying to ensure that the special needs population or the intellectual and developmental disability population still get an opportunity to thrive and still enjoy life like every other human would love to do.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. I'm so glad you're doing well, man. So glad.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. So what brought us together was the love of football, right? The sport of football brought us together. So I remember in our conversation yesterday that, you know, we talked about youth footballs, you know, and we all have that experience, you know. For those of us in the sport, man, you play youth football and you got a chance to go on to play high school, college, and pro. You know, where it began, it can literally shape the trajectory of your football experience. So your dad was a coach, and you got into the game at what age?
6
years old. Now tell me this. Now paint that picture for us. What year and paint that picture for us.
No doubt. 1988. When so my father ran a program, and he was actually one of the successors of this program. That football was always a part of our neighborhood and our community. So Lamont Riggs' program was a program that started in the late 60s. And so it's been around for a long time. When my father started to run the program, he noticed that I would be running around with him because he played flag football. And so a lot of his high school buddies were running around playing flag football. And me being his son, I'm out there. You know, the field was right across the street from where I lived. So over that course of time, me always just being around football, there was a level of camaraderie that was there that I got a chance to see as Black men doing. They were having fun doing it. And it was something where I just saw that it brought people together, you know. So when I was able to sign up for my first time, you know, I was 6 years old. We only had 1 pound at that time, which was, I think, 2 pounds, which was 75 and an 85 pound or something. And I played 75. The oldest you can be playing 75 at that time was 11. And I was the baby one of it, 6 years old, running around with them.
Wow.
I didn't see no field.
So you was a 6-year-old going against an 11-year-old.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know you showed that picture. That picture was crazy. For you and your father, see how small you were out there.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't start until 9th grade, so 14. So at 6, my goodness, just introduced. So how was it playing for a coach that's your father?
So again, with my father being not only my head coach, but him also being one of the leaders of the organization. My father was he was an excellent coach. He's well respected all the way through. I respect him as a man and as a coach. But my father didn't talk a lot. He's not a rah-rah guy to get you fired up. But his work ethic in learning the game was so impressive. So at a young age, learning how to break down film. At a young age, learning how to look at the cues to give you a heads up of what's about to happen, what the play is. And I mean, he groomed us that even at a young age, probably starting at the age of 10 after playing football for a while, like our quarterbacks and our kids were calling audibles. So He was an excellent coach. He was a great communicator amongst the adults. So seeing him, no one ever came to him wrong, saying that he did something or did something wrong, or
Right.
so it was an honor to play for Lamont Riggs and my father and his friends that became my uncles and neighborhood uncles and mentors and men that I can definitely model my character after at an early age. So that was impressive. Yeah.
True sense of community.
True sense of community in every word.
Yeah,
In some cases, that community may have been the only family that some of these kids had growing up. So to have that extension for other children that may not have had the same opportunities from a household standpoint or same family experience or structure that we may have had at that time, the community was able to extend themselves as men and women to these other children, to make sure that they ate, make sure that they got home, those things. So seeing that at an early age was, I think that's what really, kept me going, because I saw what it can do for people. Yeah.
Now let's talk about the personal stuff now. So you were always the smallest on your team.
Yes. Yeah.
You were the mighty Mike. So
yep.
I'm gonna fast forward real quick, and then we're gonna work our way back. So the first time, again, we talked about this yesterday, but the first time I saw you on the field, on a practice field, I think it was drills. It might have been early, but I just remember getting a chance on as a defensive line coach, getting a glimpse of offense every once in a while, and there was always people that stood out, right? So a freshman, I'm like, okay, you see print size, but I saw bursts. I saw those first two steps. I saw completion. I saw hand placement and on the arm and bicep, forearms as it relates to running that ball. I noticed that you was also able to be equal. That Tiki Barber technique that his head coach with the Giants, Tom Coughlin, emphasized and became now how everybody carry that ball that way. You got to really know your football to know that, and so, you know what I'm saying? So it noticed that you could do it with both hands and notice the balance. Also, your ability to shift your body weight and burst, and so I said, this one gonna be a dog. We got us one. I don't know where you from, but we got us one. So I had to follow up, what I'm saying? After I think my roommate, Deshaun Henry, shout out to Deshaun Henry.
No doubt.
And your position coach that recruited you. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say that he mentioned you. I cannot verify that, but he did stress some people from the DMV. You had to be one of them, because I know you popped on that tape. So yeah, man. So let's work out. Like I said, we're gonna work our way back though. So now you playing. You're the smallest on the team. Tell us your first touchdown, because that story is hilarious. Tell a story about how you scored your first touchdown.
So again, I was already playing for 2 years, and mind you, I'm playing against bigger kids over that time, and this was I was 9 years old. So now, mind you, I've rolled the bench for 2 years. My father just wouldn't let me in, he's, I'm getting excited to get in there. Next thing you know, my cleats are flying all over the place, so he protected me in that aspect. And right around 9 years old is when I finally got a chance to start. And I started at wingback,
Right.
And playing wingback, that wing T formation during that time, right? We had a play. We had a reverse. So my father, the name of that play was called 925 reverse. Okay, so definitely don't forget.
Yes, sir. You don't. That's right.
And then he he's watching film the night before. Was really into this film. He's like, listen, you know, this is going to be one of those games where you're going to get an opportunity, you know, and you're probably going to score. And I was like, he's like showing me the film, and he's like, so you're going to score. When you score, don't celebrate, don't slam the ball, you know, just give the ball to the ref and then run back to the sideline. Okay?
Right.
Then he tried to give me the Barry Sanders speech. You know, you seen Barry Sanders run? When he scored, he just hands the ball off. He tried to give me that stuff, right?
Right.
Let me tell you something more. And I got that 925 reverse. Number one, I probably ran about a 4.2 at 9 years old.
Man, I believe you, bro. I know you dreamed of that. Imagine, imagine knowing trusting your dad, who is a football mind. He know what he's doing, and you being told that you're going to score a touchdown. You're going, and because if you know what a reverse is, it's when you get the defense going in one direction, and the ball is pitched or transition from one person to another, going in the opposite direction, where you're using flow against the defense. Yes. So. Yes, and so you got a chance to know ahead of time that you was gonna score, and you still could not contain yourself.
I could not contain myself. I think it might have been like a 25 or 30 yard touchdown. It felt like 100 yards because I was just going, you know, and you know, teammates came around. They were super happy. You know how they do. They picked me up. Man, yes, I slammed that ball. I took a knee, did a prayer. You know, I started dancing. You know, my father, you know, being a proud father, he probably just knew that was gonna happen. But being a proud father, he just said, "Good job." You know, he wasn't
right. So, eventually, you start doing the Barry Sanders thing.
After a while, then it became, you know. Dad started being like, "Hey man, that's what you're supposed to do," you know.
That's right, routine, yes sir. That's right. So now you're when your first start. Let's talk about your first start in Little League. How was that? What was that experience like?
I mean, you just getting used to the contact and the flow of the game. You know, like being in the game a lot more and. Being a role player, I wasn't no starting running back. I wasn't the star of the team. It was definitely way more kids that were much more talented on that team.
Right.
But, you know, being a wing back, you know, making these certain blocks and holding some accountability was upon the new responsibilities now, you know?
Right.
And that carried on into a season. I really didn't start really turning it up until my 10th grade year, because also during my first start years at 9, I was they will put me in at the scout running back, you know. So we'll do, you know, these 11-on-11 practices, and I didn't start on defense. I started on offense, but not defense. So I don't know, something happened, like, you know, I kept bugging my dad, "Hey, Dad, I can run the ball. Like, give me a chance, you know." And he was like, you know, "Just get in there, you know." And so he let me play running back. I think the first time I touched that ball and I saw the hole open up, and this is against the starting defense, and one of the like top best players on our team was coming up to tackle me, and I stuck my shoulder pad in his chest and kept going, and ever since then, that's when I knew, either I can go full speed and through somebody, or I can move around them. But you ain't never gonna slow down ever again. Like, you're never gonna slow down ever running the ball ever again.
Love it.
Once I learned that trick,
Now, and how old were you when you felt that? When you
9.
experienced it? 9 years old. That's right. So now you're officially getting some playing time. You started.
Then my following year, I started at running back, at tailback, because all the other kids got older. I played 75 for 5 years, so I made a whole career.
You had a whole little league career.
Yeah.
It ain't too many people that can say that. You had a whole it kept going.
It kept going.
All right. So then you got
right around 10, that's when it really kicked off. That's when the way I was playing was just a way more physical, aggressive type of mentality at that point. Because now if I'm running the ball that way, then that also applies to defense too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so now it's just coming downhill faster, you know, taking blocks on, you know, like way more faster. And I noticed that the more I kept going full speed, like at some point somebody was going to like stop at that age, you know. So
absolutely. So something else we share is that when we got to 9th grade, neither one of us played freshman football.
Nope.
We stayed with our little league team. So for you had a whole career, and for me, I was just being introduced to the sport formally.
Yes.
So I didn't feel that I was prepared to play high school ball. Now, I talk mad shit like I did.
Yeah.
Make no mistakes about that. At 5'2", 140 pounds, I was cocky. I wore my little league jersey to school on game day when they wearing their freshman jersey. And I know they were clowning me. And I said, guess what? We undefeated.
Yeah.
I know what we undefeated.
That's
now, I'm the only dumbass wearing his jersey to high school. That's how much of a square I was. You know what I'm saying? But again, we were undefeated.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so you played Little League, man. So you played your freshman year, and you actually got two. Actually, you played your freshman and sophomore year.
Yeah, I didn't go. Yeah. So what was interesting is, even though I was in high school, in DC, we didn't start high school until 10th grade. So
okay, gotcha.
So we had junior high schools instead of middle school.
Gotcha.
So ours was we got started in 7th, 8th, and 9th in junior high school. And 10th, 11th, 12th was high school. So some of the kids, some of like my friends, they actually played JV for the team because you can play that at 9th grade. I think my father, now again, because the league that we played in was a weighted league. Now what that means is that we had to weigh a certain weight, like you said.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we know. Yeah, we know. Oh, tell them how we used to suffer from trying to make weight. Go ahead, man.
So, you know, talking about this now, at that age, like kids during that time had to weigh a certain weight. Your age had to match the weight and the level of the play. So there was kids running around in trash bags. They were going to saunas. You know what I mean? And some of them were just naturally growing because it wasn't like the Black communities were the most well-nourished places as it pertains to food, you know?
Yes.
But they were just growing, and some of them just couldn't help it. But me, on the other hand, you know, I mean, I would step up with all my equipment on. They'd be like, just move, you know, like, you know, I didn't have the issue of weight. But I will say this, though, because of that, because the game started to become much bigger, faster, and stronger, my father became my coach. My very last year, my father was my coach. But he prepared me as if I was in high school. So the type of films I had to watch, the breakdowns of it, I had to work a little bit more on my strength and training a little bit more. So he hired a personal trainer to help me during that time. I had to run track. So, and that year, I think they only had 4 games or something, where I played 12 games that year. So going into high school, playing my 11th grade year, people knew who I was because they considered me like a little league, quote unquote, little league all-star, you know, type of guy. And But some of the other coaches didn't really see that. But one thing that was about me is like I didn't ride the bench, Coach Mo. Like,
yes, sir.
since I was 7 or 8 years old, that was it, you know?
Right. You don't know what that is. You don't know that.
Yeah, right.
Hey, brother. Hey, it's not, again, something else that not too many people know about. Unfortunately, my freshman year in college, I mean, I did special teams. I guess you can count that, but I don't personally. You know what I'm saying? My position that I was recruited for, that's what I consider. You know what I'm saying? So my freshman year, I gotta say that yeah. But you know, you got, Go ahead.
Nobody, man. We man. Tom Brady rode the bench behind a quarterback for years.
Yes, sir. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If we taste it, we ain't stay there.
Oh yeah, not at all.
You know what I'm saying? Not at all. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you get there your junior year, you start off as strong safety. You don't get to play running back, which is what you're known for. That's what you do, but you end up starting as strong safety though.
Yes.
So how was it playing strong safety?
So
what NFL player did you look up to as strong safety? Yeah.
As strong safety, I mean, I was still in the era of running backs, you know, because you got Marshall Faulk.
Right.
You know, I was that. You know, during that time, I mean, there was a lot of defenders that you respect, of course. You know, growing up, loving Ronnie Lott and Darren Woodson and Rod Woodson and
right.
You know, a lot of the DBs and linebackers and things. But with my mindset, I was really focused on, I needed to be on that field. And how I got that opportunity was we was in practice and our starting wide receiver ran a slant. So I was on the scout team. And I was starting wide receiver in practice, like a 2-a-day practice, ran a slant. And they must have thought I was going to slow up when I was going to hit them. But I hit my teammate so hard that had to kind of like took his helmet off, unloosen his thing. And then the defensive coach is like, we found our strong safety.
That's right. So you became a starter just like that. One hit.
Yeah.
You know
I think it's also, there was a level of hard work, you know, of like having to prove yourself. And I never took that for granted because most of my successes at a young age, during my youth age, came from a certain level of hard work and commitment. And so staying after practice a little longer to run sprints while I'm running the stairs, you know, I invited some of my teammates to come and work out with me. We'll run Maryland University steps, do jump ropes, you know, that whole nine. And so, you know, just working on the skill and the craft of getting better at it.
Yeah.
I think one time, the last game of the season, playing against Dunbar, they opening kickoff. I asked him. I kept asking the coach, I can run the ball. Get me back there. Let me run. And he said, he looked at me because I guess somebody was hurt. And he just like shoved me on the field. Like he pushed me like, you better not fumble that ball. Right? So I was like, don't. That ball came to me. I took it 65 yards. Yeah. And then I ran back to the sideline, and he was like, "Oh shit, you can run." I was like, I told you.
Say what year? What grade is this?
The following year. Right? This is 11th grade.
11th grade.
Yeah, this is 11th grade, and then that following year, my father made somewhat of a business decision for me to find better opportunities that would like to offer my wishes for my last year. So my last year, I ended up going to Northwestern, became their first 1,000-yard rusher up over there.
Yes, sir.
Did some amazing things, had some single game rushing records and stuff like that, and paved the way for some of those other younger guys that came in right behind me too. And hence that following year, that's how I met you, Coach. I was already on this wave of commitment and working hard, you know?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And before we get into your recruiting process, I want you to talk about, as a high school student, as a running back, what was your physical regimen, like your fitness regimen, as far as the weights? And because first of all, we got to give you tell people your height. So while you was in high school as starting running back, your junior year, going into your senior year of starting running back, right?
Yeah,
so junior year strong safety, senior year running back. But what is your size and what is your workout regimen?
Sure. So my actual size is 5'6". My program is always going to give me 5'8". So I always the program directors, but my actual height is 5'6". During that time at running back, I was probably $155.
$155.
Yes. The intelligence of the game actually had me become a great runner. So I had the instincts of a running back, and I could take the hitting. The importance of keeping your feet moving when you get hit and stuff like that. So that skill. But when I went to Northwestern, once they started teaching me how to actually work out. During that time in DC public schools, they didn't really teach us. They didn't like the resources, but we had some really, really committed coaches at Northwestern. And we used to do this Kansas State workout. That to the point, by the time I ended up at Robert Morris, I was power cleaning at least 315. I was squatting at least 525, and we were doing snatches. We were doing clean and press. We were doing a lot of, pumping the iron, and I easily put up about I started 155 before I went to Robert Morris. While I was at Robert Morris my freshman year, I got up to 180.
So you played at 180 your freshman year?
Your freshman year at Robert Morris. My freshman year.
Yeah.
My first year meeting year. Yep.
Wow. So before we get into that, we got to talk about academics. Now, how well did you do? What did you get on the ACT, if you don't mind me asking? I'm going to ask all my guests that.
Sure. No, I barely. But I was at 890, but it was enough for me to qualify because of my grade point average.
Yeah, what was your GPA, graduating GPA?
My GPA was 3.8. So
3.8. Okay, yes. See, let me tell you, your boy, 2.2, 14 on the ACT.
Yeah, see?
hey, SAT, 560.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
And I tell people, I am not ashamed.
Yes.
That is what I scored.
Me
know
too.
What I'm saying? So that's my score. Now, you want to see what I done after that? We're gonna talk about that eventually too. But that was my high school GPA and scores. But so you had a high GPA. Dad don't play that. You know what I'm saying? A student athlete, you get to know that the importance of both. Right? This ain't that. And my boy who I interviewed too yesterday, Florida State, man, running back, he was a walk-on, but he talked about study habits, man. So before we get into study habits, we hold on that thought, but actually we want to talk about your study habits in high school. What was that like?
Yeah. So Woodrow Wilson was Allensdale and Woodrow Wilson was considered one of the top academic schools from a DC public school standpoint. So with so many cultures and everyone's learning possibilities, like we were loaded with homework. It was always going to be homework. Like you just said, my parents ain't really play that, so them receiving calls and things like that. I didn't receive like my first failed grade until 10th grade, which was in geometry, and this was almost like an AP class a little bit because that teacher was fairly difficult. But the habits at Northwestern was a little bit different. I had more opportunities at Northwestern to practice a little bit more character and restraint because I had a half a day. So my responsibilities were, once I'm finished at lunchtime, I can go anywhere, you know, like
Oh, wow.
people still in school, I can go back home, I can do anything that I wanted to do.
Right.
But the habits of still getting your homework done. And when I went to a Maryland school versus a DC school, their curriculum was a little bit different too, Mo. So a lot of the work that I did when I was in 9th and 10th grade, they were doing it my senior year. So I still had all my notes, I still had all my books, I still had all, you know. And that also helped with my GPA too, right? Because, you know, I just learned something new. But it really didn't connect to me until I got to college, you know, being away from home, being away from responsibilities on a different place is very easy to lose focus, you know. But that actually, there was a situation of just not letting my parents or my teammates down through school, you know.
Right.
I didn't want to blow my opportunity at this football thing, like messing it up in school.
And speaking of that,
and
man,
I also knew, go
ahead. Finish your thought.
I also knew as long as I continue to stay eligible, when my chance comes with that, when that other kid, I mean, if I'm eligible and somebody else is not, that means they can't take my position.
Right. Absolutely, man.
You know?
And I know you, like myself, has witnessed so many dudes that had the potential to go and play college ball, whether it's D1, what the level we played, 1AA, you know, 2-3. But the point is, they could have continued their career, but they just were not willing to accept the fact that academics came with it too. Yes. You know what I'm saying? And you hear those same guys like, man, of course they wish they would have, man, but it's unfortunate because really accept the fact that, man, this academic stuff is part of it too.
Oh, definitely my freshman year. I mean, I went
college.
Up there. Yes.
Yeah.
College. I mean, I took my academics in high school very seriously too, because you have to be eligible and things.
Right.
But there's also a transition phase. Sometimes we just get by just to get by, right? To get those passing grades. Some teachers like cared for you a little bit more, so they worked with you a little bit more just to, you know, keep you there. I was never a knucklehead, so, you know, education was very important because my mother grew up very African-minded centeredness. So being in touch with the culture and the importance of that, you know, everybody in the neighborhood knew my mother didn't play, so I couldn't go anywhere acting like I was this big tough guy or you know, something that I wasn't, you know, because they know who my parents are. So I did take that. I mean, I understand homework had to get done, but it's the responsibility when it came to college. Like, it didn't matter if you was the superstar on that team no more. They didn't care. If you ain't make the grade, you ain't make the grade. You just didn't play. You going back home, you know? And I went up there with about 12 to 13 guys from the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. And probably if you add Virginia in that, there's more that's added. But literally in one freshman year, I was the only one. Everybody they dropped out of school. They didn't complete school. You know, they couldn't, you know, handle the transition to focus and things like that. And a lot of kids also had come in and had to work towards their eligibility coming from high school. So they had their freshman year, you know, and had to prove themselves in their freshman year that they can become eligible to play for Robert Morris at that time. Prop 48 is what.
Prop 48. They don't know, but a lot of people don't know about Prop 48, man. Yeah. Prop 48 was rough. It's funny. I went to a military school in Boonville, Missouri, my first 2 years, and if it wasn't for that, I would have been a prop somewhere. Yes. You know, if I would have even pursued football at that point, I want to believe that I would have. But I probably would have ended up with my grades and my GPA. I would have ended up a prop. But again, it's almost like Prop 48 still gave brothers a chance,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You still, but then to see how many Prop 48s that just didn't make it,
Yes.
right, on their own dime, like you would think, like, okay, this is my investment in me for the love of ball, but it still wasn't enough, man. But you're one of the ones again that stayed from the DMV area, and again, freshman year, you come in, you got competition. I know you're not used to riding no bench, but you meet somebody that's in front of you, man. That's at running back at Robert Morris University, man. Talk to me about that guy.
Yes, man. My guy, Sam Dorsett, and he at one point he was the all-time leading rusher for Robert Morris. His predecessor, who he coached, actually he coached him to beat his record, but he was in front of me, and this boy from Florida, Miami, Florida too, and it's very interesting when you come in and you don't know anyone, right? There were 72 freshmen, Coach Mo, so we had a whole JV team of a college team that also played against Division III schools. And out of those,
remember, I was the D-line coach. I was a defensive coordinator for JV.
Yes, you were.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so there were only 3 freshmen that played. I think doing things that were just a little bit extra because there were also other running backs too. I think at that time, like in our running back meeting, there might have been 9 running backs in there, coming from all over, Ohio, Florida. You got, guys that's juniors and seniors that want to get their chance, at running back. You got guys coming in from JUCO that's been getting experience in that way. And so knowing that Sam was coming in, and now he was being called to be that number 1 guy, I had to do things at any cost to get on the field. So I participated in all the special teams. I was on the kickoff return team. I was on the punt return team. Anything that got an opportunity to keep that ball in my hand, that's what I'll do. And I just patiently waited when my opportunity came in because we were really good at that time. I mean, we were beating teams pretty bad. So I got my opportunity quite a bit to back up Sam and get my 4, 5, 6 carries and make the best of it when I did, including some all-purpose yards from the kickoff returns and kickoff return team. So we all, I tried to take advantage of as much opportunity as possible. Him and I had very different styles because he's very fast and quick, but he's a bruiser of a running back type of guy. And he can definitely deliver some hits and
bowling ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Where I came in with a little bit and I just wanted to hone in on that. I wanted to focus on my speed. I wanted to focus on my quickness and my development of the game, knowing your plays, because you can't freeze up and not know what you're doing, because then you really won't get no opportunity. Coach Walton's playbook was pretty thick,
Yes, sir. And real quick, we provide context, but we want to provide context for this. So, head coach is Joe Walton. Joe Walton is former NFL head coach, New York Jets in the '80s. Was an offensive coordinator for the Washington Redskins. Was the Joe Theismann's personal coach, quarterback coach, and so we're talking about. We were coached by legends. Our defensive coordinator, offensive line coach, Guru, Bad Rad, Dan Radakovich, who recently passed away. Shout out to Bad Rad. And again, we would brag, and our coaches would brag that we were getting a football education as well. So we learned, like you said, how to break down film and how to pay attention to detail and how to look for talent and all those things that caused us to be successful back then, and especially that 2000 your freshman year, where we go on to win the national championship. And for those who don't know, so there was 1AA, right? There was a time when there's 1AA non-scholarship.
Yeah.
This was a special football category created for those schools that were growing pretty rapidly, and they had the foundation to claim 1AA versus 2 or 3, and provide enough financial assistance. They were not called. We have full scholarships then. Again, it's non-scholarship, but some decent packages depending on who you are. You know what I'm saying? To be honest, right?
Yep.
And so, and that's what the system was. And so, we won that year in 2000 the national championship for 1AA non-scholarship. Let's make sure we say that clear for our level. And if you wonder what type of schools those schools in that league, it was Wagner, Stony Brook, what else? Albany, St. Francis,
Sacred Heart.
Yep.
You had, but we played against University of Dayton.
Yes, sir. Duquesne.
Yeah, there's a few that were in that conference. Furman at one point was in non-1AA non-scholarship. So it was, when we're talking about national rankings, 1AA non-scholarship across the country,
right.
there was quite a bit of teams, and Robert Morris was always ranked in the top 1 to 3 every year in the nation.
Absolutely. And 2000 again, we went undefeated that year, won national championship, and game ranked number 1 against ranked number 2, Robert Morris University versus the University of Dayton on their field. And we're talking about turf field, 15,000 students 15,000 seated stadium. That's for us. That was big.
Yes.
You best believe we act like it was big too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, tell them about that. The first time you got a chance to get in the game and do your thing, man.
This was the 5th game of the season at this point. Sam was having an incredible year. You know, I knew at some point I was like, okay, I got to play my role and take advantage of everything that comes, because he's having an amazing year, and we're going up against number 1 against number 2. And like you said, at Dayton, 15,000. So it was a lot of people out there. It was televised in Dayton's broadcast and everything else. And, I couldn't wait. Again, it's one of those things, like, it's a big game, and I love big games, like that's what I played for as a kid,
Right.
And, as the game goes along, it's a tight game, so it's not that many kickoff returns, not too many punts that's happening. Or if they were happening, they weren't really kicking it to me. Sometimes my senior fellow senior return man would come and steal the ball from me.
Go ahead, you gotta say his name. You gotta say his name.
My man, Opio
Gary.
Come all the way from across and then just take the ball and just take off. But I get it. He was a senior. He's been wanting to make a play, and stuff. But then Sam tweaked his ankle, and he wasn't able to move the way he needed to in this big game. I mean, they're coming, At this time, we were down. I want to say that we were down 3 points at this point. 5 minutes left and some change in the third quarter. And I've been telling my boy, who's another one of my teammates, who was a mentor to me, he was a senior at this time, Monroe. And I was telling him, man, I can't wait till I get into the game. I can't, man, I'm going to make sure. I just can't. He just kept hitting me on the shoulder, telling me throughout the whole game, first, second quarter, like, y'all, you going to get your chance, little bro. You going to get your chance. And then my number got called. He's like, you're going to get your chance. And
shout out to Monroe, man.
Shout out to Ro, man. Shout out to Ro and his family. So, then it became, in that third quarter, defense is playing lights out. I mean, these are games where we've been blowing people out usually by this time, and you could see the workhorse on both sides, man. I mean, there was some workhorses on each side, and then we were going at it. But then coach called that 25 leg draw, and they didn't expect the young boy to get the ball. You know, I'm Sam's backup, and they didn't really know what I was about, so they never got a chance to really scout report me and prepare me. But I stood patient, and as soon as Tim Levchek gave me that 25 leg draw, and I tackled through that guy and took off, pew, and took off on that end zone.
Yes, sir.
And we were, you know, that was like a huge piece. I think we were up at that point. That put us at where it became 14-7.
Right.
I'm sorry, 14-13. It became 14-13. And so from there, you know, I think Sam, they wrapped up his ankle or something like that. They wanted to get him back into the game or what have you. Coach looked at him. He's like, "Nah, don't worry about it. You're gonna let him go." And I just ran with it, man. I mean, I caught every pass that Tim could throw to me. You know, I broke every tackle I could. You know, was running through some tackles, some arm tackling, and we even led another drive all the way down for us to get to the goal line. So I ended up with like something like 12 or 13 carries for like 77 yards or something like that. Right. So I averaged out to be somewhere like, you know, over 6 yards a carry or 7 yards. So it was one of those games that really highlighted, and that was Coach Joe Walton's 100th win too. So it made it even bigger.
Absolutely, man. Yes, sir. Shout out Joe Walton.
Proud to be a part of that.
Yeah. And you mentioned Tim Levchek, man. So so Tim Levchek was the quarterback, won Offensive Player of the Year for the conference, Northeast Conference, several times. But you know, me and you were talking about that delivery and the ball, zip on that ball. My goodness! And for those who don't know, and receivers out there, when you got a quarterback, when you can hear the ball when it's coming, because there's a lot of quarterbacks out there, you know, they need to work. But man, this kid, so pitching 6'6" quarterbacks, 6'6", you know, and throwing that ball, it would make a sound. And we talked about how he could throw against the wind like no other. Like, it was amazing to see that dart that he would throw, and the ball would just drop right when it's supposed to into your arms. And you said there was some people that were struggling to catch that ball, right? But you made a transition, right? Man. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like after that freshman year, I worked like no other. You know, I knew if that was gonna be my role. Ever since I got a taste of kind of like getting the ball and knowing that I can actually do it. You know, and I was able to actually do it as a freshman. I was like, I'm about to take my workouts to a whole nother level now. Me and my father started working out 5-hour days. So as soon as the season was over, we got to work. Every time I came home from winter break, I would work in the warehouse with my father, doing whatever we were doing. And then I would go to my local high school, Northwestern. I'll get back into my power cleans, my squatting, my working out. But then my father started adding the footwork and the plyometrics and the speed. So then I came back my following year, and I was right up between 180 and 185, but I was chiseled. You know, I came back like bigger, faster, and stronger. But my father also started working on some other skill developments with me. And so we used to practice wide receiver drills. And he said, man, you never know. You'll never know if you're going to, need to use this skill. You should learn it. You got to learn how to catching out the backfield. You got to learn how to run routes. So we started really working we started really like focusing on like the route tree. And so my father asked, I think it was Coach Deshaun still, said, hey, can you send me the route tree that you guys run, and we're going to start working on it. So I got really good on my get-offs. I started getting really good at like no fall steps, breaking down, boom, making my movements a lot crisp and fast. And but I came back still with my mindset as a running back, you know. But everybody, because there was no more seniors, that was the wide receiver. Opio Gary had left. We had Ryan Fulmer, who ended up becoming a wide receiver coach there. You had some tight ends. I think Brent Hockenberry was transferred.
Hockenberry, boy. I got to get him on here, boy.
Yes.
Yeah, Hock was something else.
Yeah, and so it was those guys, and then we had but the wide receivers, they weren't there. Tim coming back for his senior year, again, like you said, he already won every accolade before his senior year, so he's coming back faster, bigger, stronger arm, because he's getting ready for the NFL. Because his opportunities were coming. So I noticed, man, just Tim was throwing that ball, and all of a sudden, poof, poof, you know, and everybody hitting people in the face and all types of shit. And coach just couldn't take it no more, you know, I think. But I also was still working behind Sam. I don't know what Sam's workout at that time was, but I knew what mine was.
Right.
And Sam tells me this story about when, because it pissed him off so much. Because Tim looked at, I think Tim gave me a pitch. He gave me a pitch, and Tim just watched me run, and I just took off. Phew, you know, hit that corner, made a cut, made another cut, and I was gone. And Tim looked at Sam. He was like, "Sam, I don't know what you're gonna do." He came back bigger, he came back faster and stronger. I don't know, Sam. But I also, and then after practice one day, it was a 2-a-day. It was after a morning class, and we was like 3 days in already, and nobody was catching the ball. I mean, we went far and wide to find anyone. We started using cornerbacks, safeties, and stuff.
Ed Harriet.
Ed Harriet, you know. But I went to Coach Walton. And I said, Coach, I can catch. You know, if you give me an opportunity, I think I can catch the ball. I know the route tree. I know the plays. I've been watching and paying attention. You give me a chance. So he said, okay. I want you to play some Z. You know, I want you to play that Z flanker position. Second half of class, I want you to go with wide receivers. And I went over there. My footwork was good, you know. You can tell that I've been practicing. My work ethic was already there. The wide receivers were already kind of like struggling at that point, because they you know, so they needed like a boost pickup or some things. And I mean, once we went on 7-on-7 and he was throwing that ball and I was just plucking it, you know, and then catching it and tucking it and then going, you know. Now I became a running back in open field at that point. Coach Walton never moved me ever again. He gave me my position, and
so you became a receiver.
Never came off the field ever again.
There it is, man. So you had some monster games. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong. Was it your last game of your career that you had a crazy statistical game? Was that you? Yeah. If I remember, because I'm gonna tell you. Let me see. Was that against Dayton? No, Duquesne. Yeah. Yeah, so let me tell you this. So I don't know why I end up in town. It might have been CC, Carl Cannell. Gotta be on this podcast. Woo, yes. Carl Cannell. But yeah, I think it was him that encouraged me to come to the game. And I just remember Taiwan had just had a monster game too, maybe the week before or something. But then you, and I'm going to tell you somebody else I respected that game is Dick DeMayo.
Yep.
Let me tell you something. You talk about getting your opportunity and making a statement, your last game of your career. Man, because you got a guy who's been a starter since his freshman year in front of you. You know you can play, but because of the competition, you just don't get a chance. But when you do, Richard
Yes.
DeMayo, who's an offensive coordinator now at where is he now? He's with Benzel at Westminster, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
You know, yeah. So he was throwing, and you were killing it. My goodness, I think what 10 catches maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know why I remember that.
Yeah, it was like 9 catches, like 169 or something like that.
Yeah, it was something crazy. Yeah, man.
And it was a night game too, and everybody
Yes,
was
sir. Oh, yes.
Yes, man. And that's another thing. I mean, just looking at some of those guys that when they get that opportunity, Rich threw for 444 yards in that game. Broke a NEC. I think that might have been an NEC record for a single game. And like 4 touchdowns or something like that. Like
man.
For some crazy numbers that day. And which is interesting because even leading up to those years, even just now never coming off the field was the first time that I had a serious injury that kept me away from football. I've never been away from football since I was 7 years old, you know?
Right.
So now I'm missing a whole season, half of the season. 5 games, broke my leg, St. John's. Really came back and worked hard because I was coming into my own at that point. I was like pretty much in my sophomore year of transition to wide receivers in 5 games. But I was kind of getting acclimated with our first game, but like the second, third, and fourth game, I was leading the NEC. Like I was up there in the top in all-purpose. I was up there in all yards after catch in the whole 9, and I was so I'm building up this thing, you know. Homecoming that year, moving to wide receiver. 7 catches for 167 yards, 2 touchdowns, you know. So I'm really finding my groove at this point. But break your leg, man. You know, you break your leg that's something completely different, you know.
Right.
But came back with the expectation the following year. Came back with the expectation the following year. Went back into my workout regimen. Bigger, faster, stronger again. And they were expecting some really big things coming from me coming back from my injury. And then the first game of the year, Sam goes down. And he has an ACL, MCL tear. And I'm always desired to play running back. That's my first passion. Number one is I started to learn real quickly as a wide receiver that you're the last one to get the ball. So anything can happen before that, you know, bad snap, especially when your number is called, you know, bad snap, a sack happens, you know, bad throw, the whole 9, you know. That it had my competitiveness was sometimes getting the best of me because I could be wide open down the field, but if he don't see me, you know, it's kind of like frustrating, right? So I was always big on getting the ball into my hands as fast as possible. So pitches, you know, even if we didn't do like any quick screens like they do back, like what they used to do now. But Sam went down. I did get an opportunity to play it again against Dayton again. And second game of the year, I tore my meniscus. So I did finish the game against Dayton and had a pretty good game given the fact that I tore my knee right before halftime. And I missed the whole season. Had to get knee surgery. You know, I started thinking more about my life, like the study habits and everything else, because at that time I was into computers, but I really wasn't into computers. I was just doing it because that's what, you know, it's a parent's choice and kind of like that, but football was my thing. So I switched my major over into the finance side of things. Set me back a little bit, but I was able to pick up that extra year But that was the year that also Sam and I became best friends. So when he tore his knee and I tore my knee, we had a string of injuries. Taiwan's ankle wasn't working too much. So I think that year they went 2-8 or something along those lines.
Right.
Had a really rough year.
A lot of injuries. A lot of injuries I heard.
Ton of injuries. But that was a shift for me. That's when I started really getting into my book reading even more. Had more time to educate myself on things. I had time to really start reflecting, about my life and what I really wanted to do with it, because now football didn't sound so much as a guaranteed lock no more.
Right.
And which also gave me the opportunities, and shout out Coach Joe Walton for that, because one year I decided to stay up on Robert Morris campus. I stayed up on Robert Morris campus to work and also to go to summer school. So this was my first year not coming home.
Right.
From that, and I worked in a library, and so that gave me more access to books. I was taking more notes. Me and Sam became really close. Me and Taiwan ended up becoming my roommate.
Taiwan Massey. Shout out to Taiwan Massey. We got to get him on here. Robert Morris Hall of Famer, not a couple years ago. Statistically, one of the top receivers, if not the top receiver. But you got the all-purpose guy though. That's your thing, right?
I'm an all-purpose guy.
Yeah. That's right. You marked all that up on the all-purpose frames.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure these young guys are just all those things just wither away in the sand.
No, you got some good ones. You got some.
Yes, I do. I do hold some good ones. That they won't ever be able to take from me.
Yes, sir.
Robert Moore, they're definitely doing a good job on their recruiting. They're showing up on some things a little bit better. So, but just y'all better not take down my fat head. That's all I know, So,
you got a fat head. That's dope. That's dope.
Yeah. And it's right next to Taiwan's too. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's dope, man. Again, honor that very few people get to have.
Yeah.
So you go on to graduate a finance degree. You work, but because we almost running out of time. But I wanted to talk about your new drive, if you will. I heard in that you was into yoga. I had to go do my research, and I'm like, oh, he's really into this. So you're into this mindfulness and yoga movement, and I know that a whole bunch of football players, Lord knows, can use, especially former football players, old raggedy ones like myself, who's in so much pain, knee injuries, lack of flexibility. So tell me about your yoga journey, man, and as far as making that transition from a football mindset to yoga, how that transition's been.
That's a great point too, because football is what led me into it for so many years. You can feel the effect of football, and you'll know when you start to have it. Having knee surgery was one of them. I can felt my body getting a little more tight, starting to pick up a little bit of weight. I was married at that time and started having kids. Time became of the essence, and one of our coaches with my youth football program at the time, I started watching him just transform his body doing yoga. And I said, man, what are you doing? He was like, man, you gotta come with me to the studio. It was a hot yoga studio at that too. And I did go in there, and you hit it right on the head. All I wanted to do at first was to touch my toes and take away some of the pain, of just height and stuff like that, But as I started keep doing it, you're going into this thing and you have like a competitive mindset, and there's nothing to compete against, because now if you compete so much, you're actually competing more so against yourself, you know. And when you have to practice mindful movements with your body, being a little bit more compassionate, like I talked about for years, working out for 5-hour days and power cleaning and snatching and all these other things could have put all these different type of stresses. And I asked a lot for my body over the years playing football for so long. That the more I kept doing it, the more it kept kicking my butt. And like, you know, now mind you, I always got to prove myself, right?
Right.
But the more I'm like, I'm not getting it, but not frustrating to the point where I wanted to stop, because the benefits of still me going through the motions was still felt great.
Right.
And I stuck with it. Coach Mo. You know, at the beginning, it was kind of like on and off, you know. I kind of like, all right, I'll come back to it. But I just started feeling the effects of it, and it just felt like night and day. But as we were transitioning, I wasn't married at the time. Sometimes it don't work. And knowing where the place that we were in that transition became a little bit more difficult. I think we, as ex-football players, we found ways to sedate ourselves. So I found ways to sedate myself, to take my reasoning away from kind of like how I felt about myself. Being an ex-football player and being at a point where everybody's cheering for you and you're doing all these great things, to being home, sometimes you ain't getting no cheer.
Yeah, man.
You know?
Oh yeah. Yes, sir. Hey, there's a lot of people dealing with that, man, on all levels, man. It's not just a professional, man. It's those who miss those cheers.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we connected ourselves with that, right? We saw our self-identification as being a part of that.
Right.
That when those things start to fade away, like we were just talking about with the sands of time, like where do you end up becoming, you know?
Right.
Who do you become when you're alone? Who are you when you're alone? You know? So after a while, I started to recognize that man in the mirror again. You know, I started to realize kind of like the work, my mind clarity of like certain movements and getting certain blood flow going through. Stuck with it, so I just didn't stop. And now to this day, I'm a certified yoga teacher. I'm working on some programs with Yoga Alliance, and you know, I've got a program for the special needs population and a company that serves them. So even in that process and yoga and that self-reflection and that self-meditation, I don't think I could have even imagined this. Like all the beautiful things are great, but the best thing out of it is that I feel good within my mind, you know?
Good. I'm glad to hear that. So glad to hear that, especially as it relates to the mindful piece and that people make this separation of mind and body when, you know, they're one and the same, you know. Yes. And so what would you tell a former football player, let's say from the teams that won with you, the 2000 team? So your former college classmates, football players who now we a couple years out, right?
Yes.
What we talking about? That's 20 years. 20 years ago, man. 20 years ago. My God, brother. 20 years ago. Oh, Lord have mercy. So what would you tell those guys from that team who might be right now back is stiff, legs, joints are hurting, hips, knees? What would you, as far as a place to start, because again, there's still this stigma around yoga as this, you know, guys are too hard and too tough, you know, to do some yoga, and people even throw religion reasons as to why they don't do yoga and totally complicate this thing. So what would you tell someone to introduce them to yoga, mindfulness? What would you tell them? Our former teammates, but just people in general. Yeah,
but definitely for our former teammates and coaches, all the people that were a part of our lives, family and friends, is to, even if you just want to start, just start. It can start at home. If they had a local studio, they can always come to any of my virtual classes. But I'm not promoting. I can
No,
provide
no,
that
no, no,
for
no, no,
those if they
no,
want
whoa,
to
whoa, whoa,
see
no,
it.
sir. Promote it, promote it, promote it, promote it, promote it. That's what this is for. Remember, this ain't about me. I want you to
Cool.
shine, shine, brother.
Cool. You can always go to. I got a couple of websites. One is being www.synergy. That's SYNERGY.yoga. We offer online classes. So right now we're doing it through Zoom. So we're able to see you and you're able to see us and help you along those lines of helping to get introduced to that. Especially if you live in a rural area where that's not as accessible as that. But to where to really start is to lie down on your back, turn off the lights, close your eyes, and just listen to yourself breathe. The body's going to start to create this awareness within itself to show you where the places are stiff. It's going to start speaking to you. It's going to start speaking to you through the antsiness, and just laying there, you're going to start moving around. You're going to start thinking about something else, or you're going to start scratching your head, or you're going to just start talking. You got to start talking out loud. Just give a chance to just take some time, and it doesn't have to be long. 5 minutes is enough to know what we can do to help with our body. How can we work with our awareness and our own personal consciousness to heal the body? So that energy is the same thing that we're able to collectively come up with as a thought to have an idea of where we can start. But yeah, do that. Walk on your feet a lot more barefoot. Start to feel the different places within the body, within the bottom of your feet. Stretch, sit on your ankles, sit on your toes, get right into the bottom of those feet where you start to work like different angles, because that's reflexology. All your nerve endings are down there on your feet, right? So, so these are like a couple of things I would say from an immediate standpoint, which you can do.
Got you.
The other place is find a community that can help. Again, this is a non-denominational, this is a non-religious, spiritual type of way of doing things. Of course, traditions in which they see is, Hinduism, they can find, all these other type of these things that is connected with it. But they practice yoga in Egypt. They practice it during the times of Egypt in Kemet, and it's written on their walls on the forms of exercises that they had to also do. In which Africa and India and a lot of those regions did a lot of trading of knowledge and the science of knowledge. And so you find still a lot of rich history that's connected to Africa in a lot of these other cultures too. And so, and if that is a way, just do your research. I mean, reach out to someone. You can always call. You always feel free to shoot me an email. You can shoot me an email at Dante, DANTE, at SWAT, SWAT, fit, FITDC.com. They can always hit me up with any questions or concerns. If I don't know the answer, I can definitely guide you, but I've never felt forced to chant something, that I don't understand or do all these different things. It would be more so known as mindful movements than it would be, but yoga is a Sanskrit word that just means one with yourself, one with the God within you, if that's what you believe in. But right. Non-denominationals are always there. I practice next to Muslims, Christians, 7-day Adventists. I practice with so many different people that it's been helpful for everyone, so they can continue to serve and do what they do best. Yeah.
Hey man, I love it, man. I appreciate that, and of course we're gonna post all your stuff as far as your hashtags, your social media, whatever you want. We're gonna post that for the podcast, man. I appreciate you, little brother, man. You hold it down, and maybe we can do something related to you I don't know, when next time we in person, we gonna do some stuff together as far as
Can't wait.
go through a routine, stretch routine. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna need you to put me on something specific for this knee, man. Yeah. So yes, I need you, brother. I need you. All right, so that's the end of this episode of Mofo. Be on the lookout for some more episodes. I'm gonna be interviewing some more Robert Morris University football players from that era and from my era when I played. So, and as well as some other people that I met throughout walks of life throughout my journey, especially within the context of my educational experience. So, looking forward to doing this, man, and to the world, I say thank you, and looking forward to some more. Mo Baptiste, we out. Yes, sir.
Talk to you soon.
All right, brother, man. Be easy.